Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this afternoon with our friends and Mallory Run. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on through, especially kind of like so early, but this may be like midday for you guys, but it's early to us. We appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
We're like, it's noon for us. It's 1 for you. You guys are in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to become a podcaster, musician, music podcaster because I wanted to wake up early. You know, it's like you hear about the dream of like waking up at noon, rolling out to stage, playing a show, and being like, yeah, I'm just gonna hang out until like 4 a.m. and like do it all the next day. And it's like, well, shit, noon interviews. Like this is early.
Yeah. Right. I'm used to being up early because I got to work every day from like 9 to 6 from, the comfort of my own home. So I'm a little used to it, but that definitely changed real quick when I got my job. I never was up early enough.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, we get it. Let's make sure the audience knows who everyone is. So if you guys don't mind going down the line, I guess from whichever way you want to start, saying who you are, what you do in the band, fun little fact about yourself. I don't know. Yeah. We started doing that, and I'm like, I hate it. Let's take it out. But like, if you guys want to throw out a fun fact,
it makes sense. I'll start. I'm Dan. I do vocals in the band. My favorite flavor of ice cream is cookie dough.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Cookie dough.
I'm Tom. I play drums in the band, and I sell skateboards, I guess. I don't know. That's what I do. I do this and that. So.
Yeah. Love it though.
Yeah, I'm Joe. I play guitar in the rock group, and I am I'm working on a master's degree right now, so that's kind of like taking over my life. So that's my fun fact.
Yeah. Is it fun?
No.
I just finished my master's. I'm tired. I'm tired. Yeah. I get it.
I was like, oh, like this will be easy. And I'm like,
just slide into another program, it'll be nothing.
Yeah, I'm like, what a fucking moron.
You're like, they accepted me so quickly and easily. It must be good.
They were like, you got this, man. And I was like, yeah.
I do got this.
You do got this.
Yeah.
My name's Bert. I play bass. I'm 30 years old. I'm currently unemployed. We tried day trading over the past year.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm gonna try to win some amateur golf tournament.
Okay.
We'll see how that works. My girlfriend is ever pressing for me to settle down and get a real job, but I'm having a tough day today.
This is my brother.
Joe's my brother. We are brothers.
Albert,
okay.
Nice.
Albert's conditioned to say I am Albert. I play bass, but it is now Albert/vocals.
Oh shit!
On the new EP,
that's a funny thing.
Albert has showcased his voice on the new EP.
There we go.
Yes, and it's now bass/vocals.
Albert/vocals.
Bass/vocals.
Now you can always release an NFT of this EP with no vocals from you though.
Listen,
you
if
can be
you
like,
want
guys,
to talk
listen.
NFTs, I'll push these other 3 out of the way. We can turn this into a crypto market finance.
That definitely comes later. Because I know
that's an extra side episode.
Yeah.
And it's
obviously being part of the news and being something that like everyone is trying to like come up with their ideas for. It's come up a lot lately. And every time Lizzie and probably a bunch of people listening to the episode are like, stop it. Just cut it out. And I'm like, no, I'm really like, I'm excited, but I also like kind of secretly like want it to fail. So I can like be in the corner and be like, meh. And now we'll talk about that later. That's for Twitch. If you're listening to the pod episode, maybe that happened on Twitch. If not, you're not missing anything.
Oh my God.
You guys just released your new EP, Picture Perfect, which we were talking about, the showcase of the new vocalist, Bert.
Thank you.
It came out May 21st. What how's it going? I mean, usually we book these before they like come out, right? So we would have done this as like, hey, it's coming out this Friday, but it's already been out. So how's how's the release been? How have people been feeling about it? How's the reception been?
Anyway,
I'd say pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Seems pretty good.
what's cool about this release is that it's like, I don't want to say it's not something that like we're like paying super close attention to, but like, I don't know, we just really enjoyed the music that we did and put it out there, and a lot of our friends and some new listeners are really enjoying it, and that just is great. You know, like that was the whole goal, was to just put out tracks that we are like stoked on, and the people that are listening are stoked as well. So that's kind of how it's going.
yeah, I would say kind of, I reflect everything he said. It was, it's a little more intrinsic this time around. Not that it ever wasn't, but this time, like, I'm just so not concerned with what people think, because I've kept saying to these guys, I think it's awesome. Like I love our EP. There's nothing about it I would change, and like it being out in the world, I'm just happy. I'm not like worried about what people will think. I'm not worried about this stuff, which in the past, you know, maybe we wrote a bunch of cool songs and then they didn't quite come out after the studio how we had hoped, and then you're like, oh, I hope people still like it. This time it's just been like, yeah, we got to finally put those songs out that we've been sitting on that we love. So it's
it's like we're confident that the music is really speaking for itself this time around. You know?
Yeah.
Like we're just so content and comfortable, and I mean, you know, we listened for so long and like, are these good? Are we sure that do we like these? Is this, did we do it?
Yeah.
Like so many nights over and over again, listening to the EP over and over again, before masters, after masters, before mix, after mix. And it's like, you get so close to the 5 songs that you're about to release. And then like, once it comes out, like, you know, whether one person listens to it or a million people listen to it, it's like, it's there, you know, like you're happy with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this was your first EP being pressed on vinyl, right? And it went through Here Goes Nothing Records. How was that process, especially like after this year? I know there's like a huge vinyl shortage and hard to get them shipped in and everything. I know it's still an issue. So how was that kind of like getting it all worked out in that process?
Incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Yeah,
it was a lot of work, but we teamed up with the right people. Everybody we worked with was an absolute like delight to work with. Like, nobody made it hard in any way. We worked with Jordan Sigmund, who's a local friend who's also a designer. He plays in a band called The Standby that you might have heard of, but he was super receptive to the entire idea and was all about it. And then Hector from Here Goes Nothing was the one that we worked with for that. And he was the same way. Everybody was just like, the only focus was making it the best product we could come up with, and doing it by any means necessary, really. And I think that shines through with the early 2022 ship date. By any means necessary.
Yeah.
Love it.
It was like I would say like the general vibe of like writing the songs, recording the songs, pressing them, promoting them, releasing them has all been like such a like we're just doing our thing, you know? And like when we're working with artists and we're working with like people like Hector and Nina and stuff, it's like, hey, like do your thing, because like that's what we did, and like we're not into like
telling people what
you what to do
or
like,
being told. And
right.
So we kind of reflected that feeling, I feel like.
And like when you give people that you're working with that kind of freedom, it kind of just like makes them stoked to work on it with you. And then that's when like everybody's stoked. So it's like I wanted to say that because that was something I remember thinking like the whole time with like going back and forth with art drafts with Jordan and Hector and stuff. It was like, yo, like do your thing, like kill it, you know what I mean?
I kept
like,
saying we chose you for a reason. We didn't choose you to make our art through you. We chose you to put your stamp on it. So put your stamp on it, basically.
That's good. So, I mean, it's feeling to me, especially, you know, coming out of the pandemic. I say that meaning like, hey, I can go outside now and that's great. I'm still going to stay inside, but I can go outside. That's lovely. But like going into it now, I think that there's like this sort of renewed sense of the community around what you do, as opposed to being like I remember bands would always be like, I'm going to take over the world. We got the best music. We're just going to do as much as we can. I want as many people to hear this as possible. And now I think people are like getting their expectations more measured. And they're like, No, I just want like cool people to listen to it. I want to work with cool people. I want to do fun shit. Like that's all that matters to me. And it's like, that's really refreshing. It's really refreshing to not be like, I need to take over everything. We need to be the biggest band. And you're like elbowing your way to the front. Like it's very like, no, let's just be cool. Let's build a community. Let's hang out with everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. Refreshing is the exact word I would use for this whole process. Because in the past, we had maybe picked the wrong people to work with here and there. And then we kind of had to fight around awkwardness related to just that personal relationship. And this time it was just so easy everywhere. Not to mention, we finally had the time, the time to create a record that we knew we loved. And then the time to finance the record we knew we loved and stuff like that. It just made for a really refreshing experience. That's the perfect word.
Definitely. Did you find it with crypto? Just checking, wondering.
I don't think we did. That would be awesome though. Maybe the next one.
Yeah.
I think I might. I definitely cashed out some money to pay Seth.
A little bit.
It was a complete failure. I mean, I have nothing right now. Like, in July when we were at Seth's or whatever, like, took out a couple $100.
Yeah,
all right.
I guess I was speaking personally, but
partially.
A little bit. Listen, you can always go to people and be like, "Hey, what other small band has been partially funded by Bitcoin? Tell me."
Partially.
We need a little hype sticker on the album.
I'll try to really remember like what I don't know. It was a long time ago. I don't think I was into crypto at that point, so I think it was just like an OG stock.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
Regardless.
GameStop funded this record.
GameStop funded this record.
the meme stocks are going back up according to the random TikTok I scrolled past earlier today, and it said AMC, the movie theater. Let's go, guys.
Other people are telling me.
GameStop 2.0.
200% or like 300% in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Yep. Now, is that the actual short squeeze or is that just?
I mean, they're just opening. They're just opening up again.
Financial advice.
We are not a financial podcast. We are a music podcast.
We're music industry people.
We can tell you TikToks we saw. We can explain TikToks we watched. We can definitely do that.
We can do that. Financial, no.
Yeah. It all sounds like a foreign language to me anyway. So I'm with you guys, you're good.
Oh yeah, there was
a
a journalist who like put together like a PowerPoint of like NFTs and like very basic Bitcoin, and I stared at it. I shit you not, like on and off for 7 hours. I'm like, I don't get it.
It's all fake.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not easy to understand. I believe me, I don't understand NFTs like completely. But
my cat is freaking out because
Hell
my
yeah.
fiance is nowhere to be found right now.
Oh hell yeah!
I don't know if you can hear that.
I was like, yeah, like, hey, is that you good guys over there?
Listen, if you need to put a cat, if a cat needs to be on the stream, I understand. It's fine. If we need
Brian
to see a cat,
the
it's
dog
fine.
earlier while he went to his bathroom.
Come on!
Yeah.
Come on, man!
Waited for you to leave.
He'll be back. Whether we like it or not, he'll be back.
Perfect. Listen, I know it doesn't get us more listenership. Like nobody's like, I heard a dog on the podcast. I want to listen to the rest of this in case I hear more dogs. But sometimes, when you get the YouTube videos and you got the Twitch stream, you're like, there's a dog in that. I better go check that out. Better go check out that dog.
I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah. Lizzie, after you.
Wow, so nice. We love the intro, also the toss up.
Lizzie.
So compared from your first EP, how is there any difference, if at all, from the way that you guys were writing and then producing these two separate EPs? Because you guys only have these two EPs. There's not another album or anything like that. So when you're going into it, what was your thought process on it? Especially we've talked with a lot of other bands recently saying that they're only going to do EPs because that's just kind of the future of how they feel music and getting it put out is going to be. Whereas compared to an album, it's a little bit longer form. So what was your guys' thought process and creative process with developing this most recent EP you guys put out?
Yeah, so we've definitely gone through a ton of changes as a band. We have some member changes and just kind of like a different sort of outfit, and
Logistically as well.
yeah, for sure. And like, so when it came to like writing the Spin EP, like I hadn't even been in the band for too long, like right before we did that. And that goes into like what Dan was saying before too, when you kind of look back and you're like, oh man, like almost wish I could go redo that with like, if I knew then what I know now kind of thing. But with this EP, it was just so organic. Like Bert and I lived together. Tommy lived with us at a point in time. Now he's just our neighbor. Our practice space is my bedroom. So like whenever we're like kind of writing like an idea, it's super easy for us to get together and work out instrumentation and try a bunch of new things. And, like some new gear came into play, which helped some ideas, and really try to take advantage of, what we had and the time. And, like I would say writing the EP was pretty experimental, like with trying some new things and like trying to sort of integrate all of the things that like we love about music into like a complete sort of thought. And it was like, it started off as just like kind of throwing darts at a board, but then ended up like super calculated. And like, this is like exactly like the flow that we want. Like this is saying exactly what we want to say. And it started pretty brainstormy, kind of scatterbrained, and like
a lot of cell phone recordings.
Yeah.
200 cell phone recordings.
More than that. Like I mean, and that's sort of the process. Is it's like, oh, this sounds sick, like let's get a quick recording of it, send it out to everybody, let's listen, what can we improve on, like what parts are sick, what parts are kind of weak, and then just like keep practicing them and developing ideas. And
yeah, we were really provided the time to let every one of those cell phone recordings kind of set in a little bit, and then we could kind of a little more objectively like look at, okay, this part doesn't really hit as well as we thought, so maybe we'll sub that part out, try this here, stuff like that. And the immediacy of the practice space for them, like being upstairs, I know like in the past we would have to drive a half hour to get to practice, so anytime we would be sitting around hanging out and have an idea, we would kind of have to put a note down and then hope that we can harness this exact energy when we get to practice to try to hash it out. And these guys had the ability to run upstairs and immediately try out the idea that was floating around in their head, and I think that can't be understated. Just the ability to immediately hash out any idea that came up.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we and I'm not going too deep into this, but we had a second guitar player, and the way that I learned how to like play the guitar and like write riffs and stuff was kind of like alone in my bedroom. So like I always like tried to make it sound full, or like kind of try to make it sound like there's two guitars playing, because that's more full and sounds better. So now, going into the studio and recording these songs, it was so sick because like there was just like maybe a little more control on guitar work for me, which like kind of really helped me be stoked, get better at the guitar, and like be super proud of what we were doing. And like, and I think that just kind of maybe speaks to the riffs,
the riffs.
I'm big on the riffs, and
absolutely.
Like, it was just so, we're going back to that word refreshing, because working with Seth is such like a collaborative experience, and like tone stuff, and like just going through and like nailing in performance and making sure that everything is kind of like the best that you can do it. And that's always been such a motivating thing about recording music at ABG, is that when you go there, that you're going to perform the best that you possibly can.
Yeah.
And when you leave kind of like wishing you could go back, I don't think you did that. You know what I mean? You didn't perform the best you could.
Yeah.
But when we were leaving sets, it was like listening to like the super rough mixes on our drive back, because like Indiana, Crown Point, Indiana is like a 6.5 hour drive. So it was like on our way back, like listening to just like the stems, like not even like a mix, not a master, nothing, just like it all sounded like so good. And we were like,
tears.
Oh my God.
Borderline
like,
tears on that ride home.
It was seriously, like, it was like 97% of the recordings that are released to the world right now, like it was done in the track. Like the sound that we hear when we listen to it, like that's like the mixing and the mastering and like post-production, was like 3%. You know what I'm saying? Like
from our end,
even from my personal point of view, not even like speaking for you guys. That's how I felt. Like, you know, I sent it to my mom and dad because we're like, oh, we're on the way back from Indiana and my parents want to hear it. And I sent it to them and they're like, wow, it's done that quick, huh? Bunch of stuff left to be done. This is just like raw as hell.
See, and then like when you look back like on when we were recording like the Spin EP, that was like listening to mixes kind of being like, all right, so like
hopefully these get a little better.
This guy's gonna do like a little sprinkle of something in there. It's gonna sound like we wanted it to. But you know, isn't that just the learning curve? You know, isn't that like exactly how anything goes? Like you do it and then you realize like where maybe you were hoping to do things differently. And you know, that's kind of that epiphany that we had doing this EP was like, we're gonna do exactly what we want to do, the way we want to do it, and it's gonna be sick. You know, there was no like hesitation, I guess. Hope that answers the question.
It does. It does.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I mean I remember all the time leaving a studio space. It's like, yeah, I mean, they're gonna make it sound good. And then you get it back.
They're gonna do that work.
Like if I ever listen to an old band now, I'm like, man, they couldn't. There's nothing that could be done to fix what we did in there. Shit. That's just what we ended up with.
Were for us for big time.
I learned a lot of people like just need that. It like you said, experience curve. It's like so many bands just do like a record, you know, it's like we got to put out like 12 songs and then it takes them like 3 years to do anything new. And I think that I was listening to an interview with Spirit Box earlier and I was like, yeah, they just like, we put out a few singles last year and that's it. Like we're just now getting into an album. And it's like, of course you're coming from that place of experience. You've been doing it for years. Like everybody who's playing guitar, singing, whatever, it's like, I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to do it, but without playing live shows, without being able to like, even like test these new songs out before they're like, you know, like let's play it for an audience. Let's see how it hits with them. Let's ask for some thoughts, get your opinions. None of that. You're just going into a studio, recording it, putting it down. And then it's like, yeah, we're going to put that out and just see what people think. And that's horrifying to me, but also it's like, that's now the experience curve is like, let's go and make it. Let's come out with something really good, learn from that experience, and then let's go do it again, like in a month, in 2 months, in within a year, you know, like more of that, like more experience to build that curve up and speed that curve up, I guess.
It's like the whole thing of like, you should be like trying whatever you want to do at least once, because that's going to be the worst thing that you ever do. Hopefully. But usually it's going to be the worst thing you ever do. And then everything from then on is going to be, substantially better. It's kind of like that a little bit, I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
I really think that can't be understated. You know, like how old are you? 25. So I mean, like everybody here is between 25 and 30. We've all been playing music since we were 15, 13, like whenever. Like, you know, it's 10 to 15 years that we've been doing this. And I feel like that's almost it's not for everybody. I mean, strictly speaking for me, I mean, for me, like there's no way I could be where I am mentally today with music, with my guitar in my hand, if it wasn't for the 15 years of trying and being terrible and failing. And, nobody comes to the show and are my songs even good, you know? And I just feel like you have to stick with it through those 10, 15, however long it is for you personally. Yeah. You have to explode to that next level. Yeah. And I'm comfortable to say that I feel like we have done that.
Yeah, I agree.
What I mean,
like you were talking
nobody
about,
listens to the music ever. Like the four of us know that we've gone there together.
Yeah,
you know?
that's kind of what's
exciting. Like that's so much. Like that gives me chills right now. Like that's
yeah, there isn't that, like you were saying before, like pushing through the crowd, trying to like, hey, see our band, look at our band. Like I just don't feel that much anymore.
Like legit, like I'm a dad. Like I've been doing this for so long. I just like that's not what it's about for me personally.
Yeah, it's become a whole new intrinsic thing that allows us to kind of try things out, like you were saying, just trial and error. If people don't like it, then I don't really care. We tried it, and we know that that's as bad as it can be now. Like, I
think the fear is like, I'm going to try something and that's the only thing that's going to be out for a long time, right? Like I'll try it and then that's it. Like that's who we are now, because I don't get to join the conversation about what that is. I did, so when you guys eventually get to your synth pop record and then you're putting that out, and then it's like, well, now we're a synth pop band. Like shit, we can't talk to everybody and tell them like, no, we just wanted to try something and it's interesting and it's fun and we like just wanted to experiment and see if it would work, and like maybe it'll be in future stuff, maybe it won't. It's like you don't get to be there as they're listening to it and experiencing, especially if they've never heard you before. They're just like checking out for the first time, and that's their entire perception of who you are. And I think now that people are like, well, I want to join that conversation by putting out a bunch of stuff all the time so that I'm consistently joining the conversation about what my band, what our music is. I think that's way better, way easier, way smarter.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's less confining, like
we definitely had there's a few songs in this one specifically where there's a little bit of like a synth piano in it. It's a Fender Rhodes, like an old
it's
style.
coming. The pop record coming soon.
It's not something we ever would have done before, but it was just like, yeah, why don't we throw that on there? That makes a ton of sense, and I have no fear about it. You know what I mean? Which was pretty cool. But you're absolutely right. Trying to constantly join that conversation, be like, well, no, like this was one song where we tried it. You have to understand. Go listen to our old stuff. We're very like title fight citizen based.
You're multi-dimensional.
Yeah, right.
But that like speaks exactly to like what I mean when I say like experimental and like maybe kind of not caring so much about like fitting into like a box, it's like I got some new gear for like my guitar stuff, and like the sound that Dan's talking about is like something I'm so proud of, even though it's like not something that I would have thought in a million years I would have been able to kind of make or like put in a track.
That we think we did.
Because of like the new gear and kind of like that attitude, now it's in a track that we're super proud of, and it's out in the world, and it's a part of that conversation that you're talking about. So,
and I feel like there's a lot of bands doing that sort of thing. Like you're seeing a lot of bands go a little more pop than we did in the past. And I wouldn't say we did a ton of that, but like that the bands that are doing it way more than we did, I feel like inspired us a ton to have that comfortability to just try stuff that we like,
For sure. Yeah, like there were a ton of records that came out, and I mean just like the past year plus that like are just so sick. And it's like maybe it's not like a direct like, oh, like this is sick, I'm going to try and do something like this. It's just like it's that community, it's like it is that conversation where you're listening, you're all ears to like people that you've played with, people that you've met like along the way, and it's like holy shit, like this rules, and it's not something I would have expected to hear from this band, and that sort of shock value has been like I'm all over that in like the past 2 years,
great.
Lizzie, did you I can ask
know
another
you
one.
were gonna say that.
No, I can ask another one.
I just think that it's like really interesting because then you also have like all these different bands, like we were saying earlier, like say Hot Mulligan. They got a lot of people really upset that like they didn't have like any that much screaming in like their most recent EP. And it's like it's still good. It's still a basic Hot Mulligan album. They're just not as much screaming. It is a little poppier, but it's definitely really good, and now it's getting like radio play, and I'm like, that's exactly what you would want to do. So I think it's really cool to see a lot of that, and if it's also being integrated into your music, which is like this kind of like traditionally emo type of sounding, which I enjoy, obviously. It just adds so much more depth and value to it.
That's funny you bring that up, because I saw some of that stuff, that chatter on Twitter about the screaming, and I literally had to like stop and be like, when do I remember Hot Mulligan screaming? I didn't like it. It wasn't missing because it all just. I feel like it just fit so perfectly for me. But I never really thought of it as screaming, so I don't know.
I didn't really think about it.
People are just angry about things to be angry about them. I feel like
it's been a constant thing with so many bands. Like AFI is one of my favorite bands, and people were mad when they started doing more like screaming, like screamo type shit, when they added synthesizers, and then they're like, oh, now there's even more synths, now there's just a synth band, and then everybody was mad when they stopped screaming. It's like, but you were mad about that in the beginning, like why? You're always going to be mad, so like just Well,
Can't please everyone.
yeah, so I don't get it. I don't get why.
It's terrible that a band showcases like versatility and like
Yeah.
different talents that they can do. You know, like I feel
Right.
like going back to like what we were talking about, like being like fit into a box. I think all of this is like it's great because it's proving versatility with,
Yeah.
with bands. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, we can be a little bit poppier if we want to. We can be a true emo band. We can be a true rock and roll band. I mean, you know, just raise your hand and tell us what you want. You know? We can do it. Not like I mean, just like everybody.
Sure,
yeah.
Or what
I
you
think
hear out of our album.
Exactly. And it's like people talk all that shit about like, oh, they don't make music the way they used to. Like, nah, bro, you just can't see.
You just can't see, yeah.
That there's a
Exactly.
million bands out there today. It's not just the 15 that were on the radio. There are millions of bands out there that are just like us, and just like Hot Mulligan, and the same, you know, caliber of musician. You know.
Hey, well, everybody has at least 2 cents, right? So
Yeah.
At
they're
least
going to
two.
share that with you at any point. So, and, yeah.
I mean, we probably got 1,500 to 2,000 tweets just saying, "Why is Bert singing?"
They had no clue. They had no clue.
I'm
They're
just
like,
I didn't
who's
know.
this other guy in there?
We didn't get a single tweet.
There wasn't one.
Why is Warren Buffett on the track?
Hey guys,
I'm gonna
I
need-
heard some twang in here. What's going on? Are
Yeah.
you going emo? I don't like it. I
My
can't
guitar,
manage
the
that.
hell?
Specific sound.
We're gonna need everybody listening to this to go and tweet and ask, why is Bert singing? Just pause the question.
Who the fuck is this guy?
What the fuck? I don't dislike. I just want to know. I just have questions about it, and I want them answered.
We
Please
had a
answer my
deal.
questions.
We had a deal. He was silent.
Yeah, we had an unspoken deal with you, and we picked up
No.
your music.
That's funny.
The traditional role of the bass player.
Yeah.
Stand up straight, shut up. That's it.
Look.
And just vibe. Just do the
Look.
Mikey Way. Just vibe.
You are replaceable. You are shit. You
No,
are nothing.
I have
say it.
said for a long time that the bassist. So I like a lot of like movies and thinking about movies and like writing movies and all that. And, you know, there's always like that character in the movie or the TV show that's like, that's the person who represents the audience and like is giving the sense of what the audience is supposed to get from the show or movie.
Yeah.
That's the bassist. The bassist is always
That's funny.
what the
That's
audience
really
should be. So like, I've always been in bands or play with people who are like the bassists and they're like, yeah, I'm playing just like this kind of like easy thing, like cover bands or whatever. Like, yeah, it's just like a very easy like Blink-182 bass riff. And it's like, yeah, but then go crazy. Like you're playing something real easy, just like fucking thrash about because the audience is going to be like, he's doing it. I want to do it. That should be me. I want to bang my head. I want to sing. I want to do all that.
It's actually really hard to play bass and sing at the same time. So I used to play in a band like in my earlier days. It was just like, I don't know, like regular old pop punk, you know, like nothing too extreme, but like I wrote all the songs. It was all in 4/4. I could play guitar and this guy could play leads and it was easy.
Mhm.
And now, you know, rhythmically it's a lot more complicated of a band that I'm in now.
Sure.
And I like as a bass player, like I know good and goddamn well that when I show up and play like shit, we sound like shit.
Mhm.
If I have a good tone day and I'm playing pretty good, we're pretty much pretty good. Like there's a lot more emphasis on me being tight and following the kick drum and like really trying to be in that pocket like all the time. And now having like rhythmically difficult songs and trying to cue the singing at the same time, like it's not easy, man. Like, I go practicing every day, you know, gearing up for when shows come back.
There's a reason I don't play a second guitar.
That's
all
what I'm
I'm
saying.
Yeah.
Like, an old musician friend of mine, still a good friend to this day, he always said it's, you know, unless you're Jimi Hendrix, like one of them is going to suffer. If you're singing and playing, singing and drumming, what have you, like even if it's a minute like discrepancy between the two, like you're going to be giving one a little bit less effort than the other one, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, I find myself in a unique position now that I'm singing in like these
Yeah.
songs to play. Like it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Like Dylan in Tiny Moving Parts. It's like, dude, how are you playing a piano on a guitar and singing at the same time, you know?
Yep.
And I kind of, not that my bass parts are that difficult, but
I mean,
Yeah.
it could be.
I get the same sense, you know?
Your the dog is finally in the stream.
he's
I
here.
love it.
here.
Yeah, he's
He's
vibing.
in full effect.
Yeah, I love it. So excited to be
Sorry about
on the pod. This next question is for the dog.
rub
Kidding.
his ass on the carpet. You gotta give him
He's
I'm
checking
gonna
his
say, what's your favorite
portfolio, and
activity,
he's
Sully
out.
the dog?
dog's checking his portfolio. There's a meme. There's an NFT. We got.
There's the
dog.
NFT.
There you go.
You know the cat sitting at the table with the cup of tea, and he's like, "I think I'll buy a boat today."
Yep.
Yes.
It's your
I think I'll
dog
buy a
on
boat.
the portfolio on the market.
I think I'll buy crypto today.
We'll get it.
Oh
I
my
think I'll buy
God.
crypto today. It'll go viral. We NFT the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But the coin is named after me.
Why is it to me? What the fuck?
Lizzie,
Yeah.
I have another one if you want me to.
So with your single that came off of it, Oh Normalcy, obviously it plays into everything of the shit show of the last over a year that we have been dealing with. How did a lot of your other songwriting process go with the other songs on this album? What kind of like different events or influences were you drawing off from?
I would say the other ones were kind of inspired by pre-COVID more so. We were all kind of maturing as people and as artists, and the Picture Perfect EP name kind of just was like our whole like outlook on everything. Like I don't really know where I was going with it, but I do.
Like pre-COVID, you're saying, like
Yeah, we were just in a very positive mood.
Conceptualized pre-COVID,
Yeah.
you know.
We were in a very positive mood, and at least personally, and with lyrics and stuff, I was very inspired by, to be honest, like Story So Far, Proper Dose, if you're into it. He is very reflective in that, and like very objective and understanding of why sometimes he was upset and things like that. And just, I don't know really how to explain it perfectly, but just kind of understanding there's a balance in life. And when you get the highs, you got to ride those highs, and then the lows come and you only feel as low because you felt as high before.
Mhm.
And it was kind of just learning to enjoy the whole experience of that, even though sometimes you aren't always feeling so high, if that makes sense. And that's what a lot of it came from, at least personally.
Yeah.
I
think it's also important to note that like our writing process is like me, Joe, and Tom, we will essentially finish the song instrumentally, and we'll all bop around and we'll listen to it and we'll be like, okay, like instrumentally, like we see the places where lyrics would go, we can feel the melodies a little bit. But as far as like being at home, that kind of like once the song is done instrumentally, like it's done as far as we're concerned right then and there. Then once we have the collection of instrumented songs, we bring them to Seth, and then the lyrics and the melody is like a very collective group effort between the four of us and Seth. And it's like that part of it is very collaborative. And I wanted to note that because I don't know if a lot of bands like do it that way. I feel like, you know, bands for the most part, like, you know, like their lead guitarist or like whoever their songwriter is, like for the most part, like the instrumentation and the melodies and the lyrics kind of come together. But for us, like it's a very separate process, you know, like we build the instrumentation, we like the way that sounds, and then together we kind of like make the song.
It becomes kind of nerve-wracking because we fall so in love with those original almost instrumental tracks.
Exactly.
You know, we really do. We love them, and it's like, wow, how do we add something to this and like keep it at the level that we hold it right now?
Exactly.
You know, you're either going to add something to it or you're going to take away when you add the lyrics, and it can be really nerve-wracking to figure that out. Once, like I said, we have these recordings that we had the time to really grow an attachment to and let them set in and let us understand them rather than just, you know, pointing and shooting and putting it on a track. And it was just it can become
and what's really cool about the collaborative process too is that like lyrically everything is like super personal, you know, like we don't really talk about things that we're not feeling, you know, and that's, I think, could be said about a lot of bands, but it's also important to note that like, you know, sometimes you're pissed, like sometimes you have anger, and like, well, it's music but an outlet for that kind of thing. And, you know, like we put out singles that were pretty like angry. Like we did the A Cold Place and Blind. And like that was a perfect example of the writing process, because that was just like the two songs were like, whatever it is, like 10 minutes of just like music. And we were like, well, you know, we need to put how we're feeling on top of that. And it kind of went from this like angry place to a more like open, like feeling fine about it. And like we were able to all relate to that in our own ways, which made the collaborative, you know, lyric process really fun, and it felt like maybe, and I might be speaking for myself, but it just kind of felt like it was a room to get something off your chest, you know.
100%.
Absolutely.
And it took us a lot of time to discover how to do that.
Right.
And those 2 singles we did, I think they came out probably about 2 years ago now.
Mhm.
They were our first time going to Seth, and we really like learned how to write songs, how to put a bow on songs once we've written them, not just write them and record them. You know, how do we make them full thoughts that kind of, you know, all relate to each other and stuff.
That'll make sense.
But
Detail.
yeah.
You know, more attention to detail.
Yeah, I like that. It is a really interesting way to me. You know, I think a lot of people think about like what the song means, and they end up getting more of the thoughts around like the feeling, the overall thing. But it's interesting to come that way from music and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling when I'm playing this instrumentally, as opposed to like, this is what I'm feeling word wise, I guess. Yeah.
It was very interesting to bridge those 2 feelings and figure it out.
And that's like absolutely a super intentional thing that like I try to take control of when writing riffs and stuff, is it's like going back to that, like I don't sing super well. I don't really ever like grab an acoustic guitar and like rip a folk track or anything like that. I'm like always just like trying to write riffs, and sometimes like a more like melancholy, like sad riff will like put me in that mood, you know, or like that's sort of how everything goes as far as like the vibe of the track. And like that's something that we tried to have full control of on this EP, was like, let's build a vibe that we're feeling right now and hope that if you listen you'll feel that way too. And when we were looking at that, it was like, well, we're feeling pretty stoked right now. Like this was again like a little pre-COVID, so it wasn't as like, oh man, like things are really different right now. It was more like, yo, like we're young guys, we're doing what we want to do, like we have some more control over our creative ability with this band, and like we wanted it to feel like a June afternoon with nothing to do, you know what I mean? Like, that vibe of like, yo,
Just
like,
Saturday, the boys were hanging, we're vibing. We're a little sad. It's okay.
Shit could go bad, shit could go good, but
right.
I understand that happens.
Exactly.
You know, like that's kind of the whole thing of the EP.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there are darker notes, but that like, I feel like that's like a metaphor for that good day, because there's shit that happens that, you know, you think about, even if you're having the best time of your life, it's like, there's still some things that are going to try and pull you out of that mood. And, you know, I think that's something that at least the 4 of us can relate to, as far as like, you know, just life in general. And, you know, like kind of writing instrumentation around those sorts of vibes was so much fun.
Yeah.
And then like throwing that like lyrical content on it was just, I mean, it felt so natural.
We talked for a while about really what picture we wanted to paint with words. It was, before it was, I keep saying this, but with lyrics, it was so much point and shoot. It was just like, what can we fill this space with that'll work for lyrics? And this time it was like, we are writing a story, we are painting a picture. We need to know what we're painting and how it relates to the picture we've already painted with this song.
Yeah. And so, something else I'd like to say, and I won't go too crazy on this, but like something I'm doing like right now, like professionally, like with the master stuff, is I'm doing like clinical research on like music therapy and how like music can sort of change your mood, or how like you can use music to reinforce your mood, or like turn a bad day good, or like have something to relate to on a super bad day. And like having all of that super present in my brain, like while doing this, was like absolutely an influence. And like, you know, riff wise, it's like sometimes you could just listen and be like, oh, like that's just a pop punk riff, you know, or like that was just something that felt dancey. But at the same time, like I it was very intentional, like trying to build a vibe with it and kind of maybe try to implement a mood with listeners.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's an interesting perspective, definitely, to like apply like the real world, quote unquote, like ideologies, and then put it into like this creative process and be like more cognitive of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Is it easy working across like so putting 4 people's thoughts into lyrics? I could imagine there's like no, man, here we should have like an and you're like, no, it should be a but. And it's like, those can make like different meanings to the whole thing. Is it fairly easy for you guys? I mean, you seem, we've just met you today. We've just met, but you seem very like you all have a really good like collaborative effort together. So is it pretty easy to like kind of build that picture together and put everything together in that way?
Yeah, I feel like I probably initially opened some of those doors to be like, guys, nothing's coming up here. Let's what can we come up with for this section?
Yeah.
And then they'd come up with something that I would love, and I would change 6 words in it and be like, is this okay? I know you wrote this. Is this okay? And it would kind of be brushed up a little more to my, my vocalist brain, if you will.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're the one who has to sing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just if I phrased it a little different or something like that, there's definitely a little bit of a filter, if that's what you mean, for kind of coming through me a little bit as a vocalist. But I feel like that's pretty accurate.
I mean,
I never thought about it.
In a direct answer to the question, I think it was fairly easy for us to get on the same page, because it was all 4 of us writing lyrics at night. Like, we would record during the day, and then we would go home with what we exported from sets, and we would listen to it, and that's when we wrote the lyrics.
A lot of
night.
them.
And I mean, a lot, and it was like the 4 of us in separate corners of that little basement area, like writing our own thing, like being by ourselves,
and then coming back, and then
So it's like, it was collaborative. It did all come together, but when we were actually physically doing it, separated, like away.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
doing like pulling from ourselves.
But that's really just like putting words to the idea. Everybody was on the same page with what
the topic and
the
subject matter.
What we were trying to say, it was just sort of how to put that in a concise,
voice,
ambiguous sort of way that, while there is like some minutia involved with like the ands and it's going to be May,
instead of me, it's May.
Exactly. Of course, but that just is kind of like Dan performing, it's like, that's Dan as an instrument more than it is, like what we're actually trying to say or like what the track actually means to us and what we hope it means to the listener.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. It's one of those things of like, Pete Wentz is the writer of all the lyrics, but then Patrick Stump is the singer of all the words, and it's like
he makes them into melodies, right?
And he makes them into melodies. Yeah. So it's like Pete writing poetry. I'm not going to comment on the quality of the poetry. Fall Out Boy can be strong, and Fall Out Boy can be not as strong sometimes.
Read Pete Wentz's partially ghostwritten book, Great, you're going to be like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here?
That's my question.
Can we break it down a little bit?
But it is that like disconnect of like, Pete is not the singer. Pete is a screamer. He's not really a singer in the same way. And then it's like you're putting these words into essentially somebody else's mouth to emote them in that way. And so I've always wondered like how that kind of comes together.
What I'm also referring to, not just the proofreading that I was referring to, but like when Bert writes a line and he tells me what he wrote, I kind of phrase it how I would phrase it so that it sounds like the other stuff that I did write. That you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of puts it all in that same voice, if you will.
It also feels very like personal, right? So it's like if one of you writes something, you say, "This is how I'm feeling." It's kind of weird to then put that feeling on somebody else. Sometimes I think, or like for men, I mean, all bunch of white dudes. It's like we don't tell our feelings to nobody. Like they can't know how I feel. Or it's like you don't get to know that. Like I'm fine. I got to go build something or break something apart.
Oh my gosh.
That song I referred to that has like a little bit of like a synth in it for the first time, like that song kind of breaks down pretty emotionally, and that was the first time really I felt that comfort to be able to sing a part like that, because like I said, it was so much more intrinsic. I didn't really care what people thought. You know what I mean? It was just like, we're gonna make what we want to make, like without any other thoughts about it. And it was yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would be sensitive. I'd be like, no, they're my words. What are you doing?
I will definitely say there were times where I was like, I would rather not use that if that's okay. Like I can't think of a specific example to be honest, but I know there were times where they would write something I'd be like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that line. I'm sorry. And that was cool. Like we had
stuck with it. You keep going. You just keep coming up with.
We had conversations where it was like we all need to be ready for us to present a line and for no one to like it. Like that's part of the process. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to look at it objectively and figure out what we like.
Hardest shit. That's the hardest shit in the world.
I absolutely love how like an emo band out of Pennsylvania has better communicative capabilities and skills than most corporate companies.
And like,
and I really enjoy
I have
that.
a degree in strategic communication.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. Yeah, that's experience. That's, you know what? Like a lot of people don't think about it. It's like, I need the guy who can play guitar the best. I need the guy who can play drums the best. No, I need the guy who can like fucking communicate the best. I need the guy. I need two people in a band. I need a graphic designer and I need somebody who can fucking talk. That's it.
Yeah. That was our big thing with the organic nature of the songwriting and stuff, was that we all kind of were close enough that, like they said, they all lived together. I might as well have lived there for the time that I lived in the same town. And it was just kind of like, we all need to be this level of comfort with each other or else it won't be organic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We can't be holding thoughts or feelings about a guitar part, a bass part, a vocal line. We just need to be open with each other so that at the end of the day, we can look at it and think that what we made was picture perfect, which is where the EP name came from. Like it was like everything about this EP just seemed perfect. And it was the line in the one song. It was like, why wouldn't we call it this? You know?
I think that's someone said that in the group chat. Like, why wouldn't we just call it that? Like, it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I had a question, but Lizzie, if you want to ask another one.
I was about to say, this just sounds like the most stress-free like album development I have ever heard. It sounds like comparatively.
Yeah.
It feels like
Nina, if you're still watching, you fit right into that mold.
Love it.
Couldn't be more refreshing.
It feels like though you're gonna miss out on your like some kind of Monster Metallica documentary. Like you're all gonna be too like easy to work with.
Video of Albert and Joe punching each other in the kitchen. Like, this is how the EP was so good. We cared that much.
Yeah, VH1 would be pissed with us. We're stoked like all the time, and they're like, "That ain't good TV."
Like we don't like that.
The guys are out.
Yeah.
I was watching something on TikTok and it was like some MTV casting director, and then there was somebody who stitched it and they were like, "Oh, I was like casted to do some other like reality show." I don't know what it was, but they were like, "Oh, but it got canceled because my life wasn't as like dramatic and chaotic as they thought it was gonna be." And I'm like, yeah, that is how that works.
Be how it goes.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, we had then this girl was going there. She's like, we had this, and this. It just was like nobody who was that was like currently like inside their residence at that time." And I'm like, what? This is insane. But yes, it'd be like a behind the music. You're like, "No, I have no issues." Then the interviewer would just be like, "No, tell me, did you beat the shit out of each other?" No.
No. Had a beer or two.
There you
a
go.
beer or two, or 100.
Upstairs and figured it out.
Saw some things.
A beer or two. Did you have any heroin? I don't know. It's like,
did you just be drugs? Wink, wink.
Yeah.
If we had drugs. We had drugs. There were drugs.
I mean, it makes nobody happy. Everybody just got to throw out that deep voice, and it's like, but nothing was good everything looked good on the surface, but everything was terrible under the surface.
Yeah, it's like VH1. We're like, "Oh yeah, we were all stoked." Narrator, they were not stoked.
They were not stoked.
Cuts to Bert in that like one-on-one real world interview, and Bert's like, I wasn't stoked.
I wasn't stoked.
Can you believe they caused me to be bad at day trading? I can't believe.
I sold Bitcoin for this shit.
Joe had an idea. We went upstairs to hash it out. When I came down, it was all a mess.
Yeah.
Like Pepe Silvio on the board, like I'm Charlie with the cigarette.
Yes.
There'd be a side like story about like Joe and we'd be like, "Yeah, we're brothers and everything, but like, listen, it's not
He's
what it all
lucky he's
is."
my brother.
Yeah.
Fucking hate that guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, I fucking hate this dude.
Hate my brother, man.
And then they have something about skateboarding just thrown in there, and then like Tony Hawk shows up, and it just all brings it together.
Yeah.
It all has a better.
Oh, Tony Hawk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sick.
That guy looks like Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it though? Who knows? We'll find out.
Impossible to know. It's impossible to know if Tony Hawk just looks like Tony Hawk or is Tony Hawk.
He's got lookalikes, believe me.
I know. Oh, yeah.
Can't be everywhere.
Well, we're almost at an hour. I want to make sure we have time to plug everything. We'll keep talking over on Twitch after that. But yeah, where can people find Mallory Run on the internet? Where can people find y'all on the internet if you feel like throwing out your own personal ones? You don't have to, and maybe you're like, no, that's my private life, and the band is where I put out all my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, we are at Mallory Run PA on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to find our personal ones, I tagged all of us individually as well as Emo Social Club on our most recent Instagram post talking about this interview. So you can kind of find us through that. But yeah, other than that, we're on Facebook. All you got to obviously search is Mallory Run there. Not really into TikTok. We do have a TikTok. Maybe it pops off again one day. I don't know. Follow us. Why not?
Yeah.
Might get rewarded sometime.
Yeah.
And then, other than that, Spotify. Yeah, just search Mallory Run. I feel like that's pretty simple.
Bandcamp, if that's your thing.
Bandcamp. We have merch on Bandcamp. Feel free to order some of that.
Still pre-orders for vinyl on Here Goes Nothing. So grab one of those if you haven't.
Yeah, we have a good bit of vinyl left, but once it's gone, we're probably not going to repress. There's probably about 50 copies or so left. So definitely, if you're at all interested, I recommend jumping on that because it will not be around forever.
It will not come back.
Yeah.
You might have to wait another 10 to 15 years for the repress. Then people are going to be like, this isn't the original.
Yeah.
The 10th anniversary repress will be coming in about 10 years.
There we go.
17
I can
years
hang.
from today, when we are almost 50.
We'll repress it.
That's when people will find it and be like, how did I not know about this?
Yeah, hopefully.
I didn't know about this one.
I'm stoked.
I was just so stoked right now. Holy shit.
I hope they're still stoked right now in this new day and age.
I'm pulling the lack of hair out of my head. NFTs, Bitcoin. I gained it all, lost it all.
Oh my God.
Again.
That is the story of Bitcoin and NFTs. Yeah. So I'm trying to give Nina the ability to post links in the chat. 'Cause she was trying to tell
Post a link
everybody
in the chat.
Yeah.
We've had some people come through and they're like, hey, listen to my music. And then we're like, hey, don't do that here.
There is, if I know this isn't as direct as you were hoping, but there's a link tree on our bio on Twitter and Instagram that has links for everything we mentioned.
Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah,
that also is helpful.
I know that's not quite in the chat and available to everyone right now, but it's pretty easy to find if you can find us.
All right, Nina, throw links in the chat now. I've fixed it for you.
There are all the links.
You, Nina.
Thanks, Nina.
You have all the links in the chat. I was going to do it after we were done for the Twitch stream, but we can do it now. I was going to ask, like, do you feel like there's a social media you focus on then? A lot of people are focusing a lot on TikTok right now, obviously, because its algorithm is just like good for getting especially music out there. But is there anything that like you feel more like, I like this? It's hard to say I like any social media, like how it's just tearing our brains in half and saying, go be a person in real life too.
I personally really like Twitter just because you can kind of put anything out at any point. Instagram feels a little more calculated. Like I can't just like make a dumb joke on Instagram randomly that I think maybe people will like, because that's kind of how a lot of people end up using Twitter, you know? We post our normal like, hey, new album out now. But then you got those in between tweets where you can just like fire off a joke, maybe making fun of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And you can't really find that with the other social media, in my opinion. So I like Twitter. It seems more natural and more, less resistance. You can just kind of put it out there, but then still gives you that avenue for the more calculated, more traditional posts and stuff, which,
Just want to say thanks again to Mallory Run for hanging out with us. Please go check out all the music. As we say every time, million plays overnight. It's time to get it done.
Run it in the background while you're sleeping.
Run it in the background. Just run it.
Know the difference.
Million plays. Yeah, do it. And thanks again, Mallory Run, for hanging out with us today. And we look forward to more hanging out with you in the future.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Of course.